Welcome back to another episode of Color Break, your third favorite comic book podcast. This is like, I don't know, issue like 35 or something. Don't worry about it.
We're somewhere there.
Somewhere around there. I'm your host, Cody Collects, as always, and I'm here with my co-host, the mustachioed one. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great, man. I feel like
Wow.
myself again.
I know, I was going to say that stash is growing in, looking great, dude.
Yeah, It's
I don't know if you ever showed your face without the mustache, like with it
No.
shaved. No? Okay.
No, never.
Kept it hidden, dude. Kept under wraps.
Yeah, just so you guys know how serious I take this, I have always ready, just in case, you know?
You know who else has a mustache and also a beard? Drew, our special guest of this episode. How you doing, Drew?
I am well. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, dude. Listen, a couple of our other guests we tried to line up, it all fell through, so I had to go back to Old Faithful. I know Drew likes to talk, so he's the perfect man for the
You
job.
are our favorite guest who has written a video game and likes punk.
Yes, that's true. Actually, you are.
There's
our
a
favorite.
big pool of us too. So
Yeah. But listen, I was explaining it to you before we started recording, Drew. Last time you were on, man, it wasn't personal, dude. We just talked about your cool experience writing a video game. So, dude, I want to get into the nitty gritty, dude, because I know you read just a ton of comics. And then also, guys, we're going to be talking about our favorite series so far this year in comic books, 2024 so far. So, yeah, look forward to that. But I think my first question, Drew, Christian and I are like, kind of newer comic book readers. We say it all the time. We
Yeah.
wear it on our sleeves.
If anything, I feel like at some point we won't be able to say it. 'Cause we
Yeah, I
don't-
guess what's the how long do you go before you
we're
stop
on year
being a
two.
new guy? But
We're on year 2 of being new.
but I know you read a lot of stuff, Drew, and I gotta ask: are you more of a DC reader or a Marvel reader?
I mean, if you break it down to that binary, I definitely read more DC than I'd read Marvel.
That's kind of what we thought. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's for some reason, I don't know. When I was a young kid, before I really was like actually collecting and reading and stuff like that, I always thought that I liked Marvel more.
Okay.
And that was because I liked the X-Men cartoon. I liked the Spider-Man cartoon. I just thought of like, and I collected like X-Men cards and stuff like that. And so to me, it was just like, oh yeah, like that's the cool stuff. And like the DC characters are lame. But then when I got older and actually like started reading comics and, buying them and collecting them and whatnot, it was the total opposite. I just gravitated towards the DC characters. Yeah, I mean, there's so many DC characters that like, I just for some reason like they resonate with me more.
It's kind of interesting. I feel like that was the same for me. And if I'm being totally honest, I feel like what puts DC over the edge for me, and Cody might agree, is that Black Label. It's
like in terms of like the actual
Yeah,
comics
comics.
themselves. Yeah.
Black Label is just so much worth it. I don't think anything in Marvel currently competes with any Black Label book.
More adult oriented. I see what you mean, Christian. And Drew, I think I kind of like on the same path as you, because when I'm younger, Batman's my dude, right? But definitely, like Spider-Man and the other Marvel characters I liked more. But then, yeah, like you're saying, man, once you hit a certain age, I guess, I don't know, just the DC characters started resonating with me more.
I think that it depends on what you're looking for, specifically when it comes to superhero comics. Because I think that DC, just as a company, tends to position their characters as being more symbolic and like representative of concepts and ideas versus Marvel, which is more so trying to like, historically Marvel was about trying to become a reflection of our real world, which I appreciate. And I really like
100%.
that. But like a character like Superman is to me like it's more about a philosophy than it is about necessarily just like straightforward storytelling. Um, and so like because of that, and I tend to think of superheroes as being, you know, they mean something. Like they represent ideas and ideals or whatever. Um, and you use them to make statements. Uh, that tends to be what I look for more. And I'm sure that somebody who's like more of a Marvel reader is probably thinking, well, yeah, they do that too. And I'm sure they do. It's just for some
Mm.
reason I can recognize it more in the DC characters.
Right. There's like more to like pick out of like a D. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense when you put it that way, Drew. Like the like just like a comparison, right? Like I think about just the way I look at like Superman now after reading all these Superman stories, and then you have a character like Captain America. You know, maybe they stand for the same thing sometimes, but you're right. It does feel like Superman and the idea of Superman is just like much larger than, you know, a couple of good Captain America runs or whatever. Just like Superman as a character, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
what was
I,
like what was like the first couple of yeah, like I guess like the first couple of things that made that switch for you, whether it be like characters or like a specific run you could point to, I guess.
when I first got started reading comics, like as a serious hobby, I read them here and there when I was a kid, but you know, same story that everybody has. I didn't have my own income, so I couldn't spend it. I couldn't go to the comic shop every week. Um, the first thing that really like got me to start paying attention to comics as an adult was the Grant Morrison Batman RIP run.
Mm.
So around like 2008 is when it was like, oh, like I'm gonna keep up with this and actually like read these. Um, and somewhere along the way, you know, I really don't know when the switch happened. I think that it was just it probably doesn't hurt that I was reading Grant Morrison stuff.
Mm.
And Grant Morrison, you know, like the way that they talk about comics or about superheroes in particular, has always been very philosophical and, you know, larger than life and, you know, representative of ideas. Um, and I'm sure that that was implanted in that Batman story. But somewhere along the way, yeah, there was this switch that happened where it's like, oh, like these characters are more about analyzing archetypes and about you know, exploring ideas. You know, it may have been Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen that really
Mm.
sealed it for me. Because I mean, I always maintain it's one of the biggest like arguments that I get in. I don't really get in arguments, but you know, like in one of the biggest discussion points that I always get in is that I don't think Dark Knight Returns is really about Batman, and I don't think of it as a Batman story, even though I think it's the best Batman story ever told.
Right.
Um, but it's because like you're using Batman to represent this like this force that is going up against like the conservative change in 1980s America. Superman is kind of like being used to represent uh, a group of people who are reluctant to follow that change, and Batman is the character who is the opposition to it. And it's like when you think of it that way, it makes the story much more interesting to me
Right.
than it does just, oh, that's the story where Batman and Superman fight.
Yeah, because I mean, at like a surface level, that's what everybody takes away from it, right? Like that's the very like, oh, they just scratched the surface. And as a new comic book reader, that's like the thing I hear about Batman, Dark Knight Returns all the time is just, oh yeah, it's so sick, dude. Like Batman and Superman, they fight each other, dude. It's sick.
Yeah, and
But
you know, I think when you think of it that way, you just aren't giving credit to, um, you're taking a lot of credit away from Frank Miller, who, I
mm,
mean, regardless of what people think about him, he's one of the most influential comic creators ever. I would argue that he's one of the most influential pop culture figures in of his generation. Um, Same with Alan Moore. They both of them shaped pop culture in a way, a lot of ways that the general public just doesn't know about because their medium of choice doesn't hit, you know, quite the same levels as like a blockbuster film or something like that. But yeah, I mean, their ability to tell stories is really undermined when you just boil it down to surface level stuff. And that's what I love about superheroes. And I think that, you know, somewhere in there, I discovered Astro City by Kurt Busiek, which is, if you've never read that book is an incredible exploration of superheroes. It's kind of like, it shares a lot of DNA with something like Kingdom Come, where it's like, or even some parts of Watchmen, because it doesn't really focus on the superheroes. It's how those characters influence the world around them and how what they mean to the world, you know, affects the everyday person.
Yeah, I mean, you make a lot of great points, and you bring up it's kind of funny you mention all these different like influential writers and stuff, because one of the questions I was going to ask you is if you had like a Mount Rushmore of like Drew's favorite comic book writers, who would be on there? And I have a feeling that maybe a lot of the names that you just mentioned would be on there. I don't know.
For sure, I'm putting Alan Moore on it.
Yep.
I don't care what anybody says. I think that Alan Moore is the absolute best writer who has ever touched the comics medium. His understanding of the potential for comics is unparalleled. I don't know that I would include Frank Miller, because there's a lot of stuff by him that I don't like.
Right. Like you appreciate him in his influence and stuff like that, but he wouldn't end up on yours. Okay.
Like it's I don't know. I go back and forth because I think that the stuff that he did do, like the stuff that I think is really good, is so good that it's unrivaled. But
I'm reading his just to cut in a little bit. I'm reading his Daredevil Omni right now.
It's incredible.
The Klaus Janson one. I'm only like maybe like 12 issues in or something like that. Like he just started writing it as well, a couple issues in. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's really good, dude. It's got me hooked on Daredevil for sure. And
his Daredevil, Born Again, is one of the best superhero comics ever, and it does a lot of what I've been talking about, where it like it examines what do these characters actually mean, and same thing with Daredevil 191 is the end of his first run.
Oh, okay, yeah, issue. Okay, gotcha.
I think that's it's my favorite single issue of a comic ever. It might be one of the bests ever.
Nice, that's cool. Can't wait to get into that. Like I said, I'm only in like the 60s right now, but that's cool. Yeah.
I don't want to spoil anything for you, but like just the basic premise of it is so good.
Nice.
I mean, now that I'm like talking about it, I mean, I feel like we got to throw Frank Miller up there.
Gotcha. Nice.
For and you know, with his, I guess his flaws and all, because I do think that he has them, blemishes and all, I should say.
You mentioned Grant Morrison. I'm reading. Last month I read Batman Volume #1 by Grant Morrison, and I loved it, dude. A lot of great arcs in there. Would Grant Morrison end up on your Mount Rushmore?
I think that Grant Morrison probably would, in terms of superheroes.
Gotcha,
I think that there's a lot of Grant Morrison non-superhero stuff that I like, but I think that their understanding of superheroes is so fascinating compared to a lot of other creators. I mean, going back through like the Batman stuff, especially like how they think of Batman, how they represent Superman in a lot of, you know, like that Action Comics run from the New 52 is great.
A lot of people like, it sounds like it's controversial, I guess, to it sounds like it's like middling, I guess, in terms of like the New 52 stuff, especially. But I've heard you talk about it a lot for sure. So
New 52 in general is just like it's a controversial subject. I think it's one of
yeah.
those ones where people really like to pay attention to what didn't work or what didn't survive or whatever. And so that tends to dominate the conversation. But if you actually look, if you really like look at some of the stuff that came out in New 52, there's a lot to like. There's Snyder and Capullo's Batman, Grant Morrison's Action Comics, Brian Azzarello, Cliff Chang's Wonder Woman, Snyder's Swamp Thing that eventually became Charles Soule's Swamp Thing,
That's right.
Jeff Lemire doing Animal Man. There's Chia Melville's Dial H for Hero. I think it was just called Dial H, but like that's a great series. It didn't last very long, but it was.
I was gonna say I don't even know if I've heard of that one. I gotta look that up.
So good.
Okay.
At the beginning, you when you have Greg Hurwitz takes over Batman: The Dark Knight, I think that book really finds its footing. Kyle Higgins doing Nightwing was really good. And those are just the ones I can remember off the top of my head.
I think like with New 52, there's this interesting thing where like you hear a lot of like big comic book fans hate it, but also if you talk to people maybe like me and Cody who are new or like our age, a lot of people like in our group have started like reading comics because of New 52.
Yeah,
like that's where they came in. And if anything, I mean, like I think like the Mount Rushmore question is even like hard for me to answer because like of course I want to sit here and be like, oh well, Ditko's there, but like I haven't read his stuff.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I come in because like I'll sit here all day and praise Jack Kirby, right? But where I start reading comics and like the stuff that really resonates with me is like Jack Kirby's long gone by that point,
Yeah.
I gotta include Neil Gaiman.
I was wondering if he. Yeah. Okay. I figured he must. Right. Okay.
I don't think it's weird because I don't really think of Neil Gaiman as a comic book writer.
I know, right? That's kind of how I think about him too. It's just like he's like one of the comic book writers that's like written more than just comic books, right? Like
he was in the Big Bang Theory. That's
the actual comics that he's written are just like Sandman. What's the one? Black Orchid, 1602, Miracle Man. Yep. And then like a few, whatever happened to the Cape Crusader, which is only 2 issues. Like his prose work vastly outweighs. But when you have a book as influential as Sandman under your belt,
it's
so crazy, right? His body of work, his body of work for comics isn't that like deep, but man, it's all like 9.5s or above, right? It's like, geez,
100%. I think cool. I mean, like, there's people that know him and will say like, "Oh, Coraline, cool," but like for me, Marvel's 1602 is like the first thing that comes to mind.
1602 gets a bad rap from some people, but I think that book's insanely good.
It's so good,
and it's like even crazier to think that like that's a book that he just did because he was trying to collect a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, right? Yeah, I love that story. It's so sick.
Not to say that he didn't try or anything like that, but clearly it wasn't like a passion project like Sandman. It's probably more akin to the like issue of Spawn that he did.
Right.
Like, but
it's like, and even what it spawned, like if you like New World is not that bad. Spider-Man 1602 is phenomenal in my opinion. Like created this whole thing, and now we even got him in What If, like the show. It's so
he's writing in What If, dude?
No. They made a 1602 episode.
Oh yeah, they did.
Oh, I got you. Right. Like his ideas.
It's not that great, but
it's based on something that's good. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who takes that last one for me. That last Mount Rushmore, right? Because there's 5, isn't there?
No, there's 4.
I
There's
think
4?
typically there's 4. Yeah, you could do 5, bro. You could do 5.
Yeah.
I
I
mean, it's
lost
up to
count.
you,
I don't know. I don't know that I necessarily even committed to Neil Gaiman or to Grant Morrison anyway. But
Listen,
Yeah, that's
if I have the time, I'll make a Mount Rushmore with their faces.
you're gonna
I will
Photoshop.
most
All right.
likely not do this, so do not get
I
excited.
mean, like that's always tough though, because like there's so many writers that like I love Jason Aaron.
Mm, he's killing it right now.
Scalped. I read Scalped at a really formative age in my like comics journey, if that's what you want to call it.
What's
And
I
that
hear
has
so
stuck
many
with
good
me.
things about Scalp, but what's like the premise? I know they're doing an Omni. I got my eyes on the Omni that's coming out, but what's like the
They're doing an
premise of
Omni
it?
of Scalped.
I think okay, so maybe it's not an Omni, maybe it's like a compendium. Hopefully,
So
it's not a soft cover compendium. But
the thing is, Scalped has been out of print for a while. Which
right,
is-
I've been trying to like read it or something,
So-
but I just can never.
The premise of Scalped. Do you know the HBO show The Wire?
Yeah, just like a crime. Yeah.
Think of like a hard hitting, pull no punches crime story like that, except it takes place on a Native American reservation and like all of the baggage that comes with that.
So it's in modern day.
It is in modern day.
Okay, or like at the time of writing or whatever. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like one of the most tragic stories that I've ever read, but like in a great way.
So and that was a Vertigo title originally, right?
It was a Vertigo title. It was really his first major comics work. Prior to that, he did a book about the Vietnam War called The Other Side, which is also really good. That's been republished as an Image book, but like that was a mini. And then he got to do like a 75 issue,
Yeah.
I think 75 issue ongoing crime series for Vertigo. Like that's insane.
That's impressive. So
And-
so I'm looking at it here. It looks like our buddy Rome's. He posted in our crossover comics Discord or whatever, but he said, yeah, he's got the picture of the scalped Omni has been. Looks like it's going to be solicited. So
That's
yeah,
that's
cool.
great. Like that's a book that I recommend to so many people, but it's hard to find now because they stopped publishing it. But with him coming back to DC, I think that that's probably that was one of the good things. But yeah, there's a lot. Brian K. Vaughan is in there for me. Ed Brubaker, Greg Rucka.
Yeah, I feel like
these
saw
are just writers.
I saw
yeah.
someone put Jeff Smith on their list, and I was like, I haven't read Bone,
I haven't read Bone either,
but
I've
that
owned
made
Popular
like
for years.
I mean, when we went to C2E2 last year, the line
Mm.
for Jeff Smith is probably the
Yeah.
longest one.
Yeah,
He's an old head, dude. He's been grinding. He's got a couple of newer series, like it's called like Tukey. It's like a
Yeah.
caveman sort of story. I've got both of them, but I haven't read them yet. But yeah, Jeff Smith, you got to give flowers to for
I
Bone
mean,
for sure. even if
they're-
I haven't read it.
seriously, I could sit and talk about writers forever.
Dude, you gave a lot of great shout outs, especially so Jason Aaron. I mean, he's doing great. You mentioned he's doing great work at DC. He's doing like his first ever like Batman story,
Yeah.
Batman Off World. It's been killing it, and then he had I think it was his first Superman arc, first
Yeah,
Superman stories.
the free issue in action that just finished.
Yeah,
up.
Bizarro World or whatever.
Yeah,
so,
which Bizarro is not a character I really care about, but I liked the way that was put together.
I was gonna say it too. Yeah, Bizarro is like probably my least favorite DC character of all time, but he's killing it with his Bizarro ideas. But yeah, dude, lot of great pulls there, man. A lot of great bodies of work that I can explore now, Drew. So thank you very much, buddy. I figured it'd be a hard question. You look like you're in pain right now, just thinking. I'm like, I feel so bad.
It is something that I think about a lot, especially because like I don't want I don't mean to get like to I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. I don't mean to kind of be like a downer, but it always sucks when we talk about like influential writers or like great writers in comics because unfortunately it's like such a male dominated industry. And then I start thinking about like all the women who like have also been influential to me, and I'm always just like, God, I left them out. So that's like what I'm doing right now.
It does stink that it just so happens that most comics are written mostly by males, and so it happens to be that most of my favorite writers are male. So it does suck. I feel you there. I mean, listen, we can give some shouts, dude. You got like Gail Simone been killing it.
Gail
Kelly
Simone,
Thompson been killing
awesome.
it.
Kelly Thompson, big fan. G.
Stephanie
Yeah.
Willow
Phillips,
Wilson right now
Stephanie
is
Phillips, G. Willow Wilson killing
Jodie
it.
Hauser. You got
uh,
a million.
Zoe Thorogood is a creator who like showed
What
up
a
on my
style,
radar
dude.
way too late,
I
and I'm
kind of
just like,
hate. I hate how much she made me cry with that one book.
yeah, I
It's
agree
lonely
with
at the center of the earth.
I-
Yeah.
I wrote, so I teach a graphic novels course right now at school, and I wrote something that was just like, you have to let me order It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth for my students to read.
That's
And
a
I was just
good
like,
book for that
a
class.
whole thing that was like trying to explain why that book was so important, and they felt that the content was a little too iffy for they kind of thought that it would give students the wrong idea. However, I did convince them to let me do Many Deaths of Layla Starr, which will
Dude,
be
yes,
book,
bro.
good
Yes.
book.
Oh, that's another shout. I mean, Ron V, dude. Ron V's been killing it. I mean, I got a Ron V. I was gonna read this, dude. Got a new
I
series
picked that
from
up
Ron
today
V,
too,
Dawn
yeah.
Runner, dude.
Yeah, I feel like
So-
we could make the Mount Rushmore in either like the classics or current. You know,
Yeah,
'Cause
I mean,
I would put Tinian up there like any day.
I would
Tinian's a good
I'd put
one.
him up there. I'd put Tom King up. I am
Yeah,
a
100%.
like,
Tom King.
I am an unapologetic Tom King fanboy.
I'm ripping through Tom King stuff right now, dude. I mean, he is on such a roll. I mean, we're talking about you got a Human Target, you got Gotham Year One, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Like, dude, slow down. I mean, Danger Street. Danger Street's the best, best maxi series that no one's read, dude.
yeah,
Danger
you
Street
gave
is
it
so
an
good.
award last year, Cody. I think you
It
made
blew
Tom
me
King
away,
Writer
bro.
of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, and his book Love Everlasting.
Oh,
Oh, so good, dude. Elsa Chartier
I dropped
art,
it,
dude.
but I think
I love that book.
It's
Yeah.
cool. I was trying to tell Christian that the second arc, it just
know-
like blew my mind.
okay, I'll
Like you
say
read
this.
the first arc, you think you're like you get the concept, and then the second arc just like
yeah, I dropped
flips
it
the table
around
on
like
you. Yeah.
issue number 5. But just here, I want to say this, just in case Cody has been doubting our friendship. I bought every single issue that came out after I dropped it
What?
because Cody was like, "It's so good."
It's a good.
So
yeah,
So,
I hope you like it. I hope you don't waste your money, but I think you will. I think
oh
you'll
no,
like it,
I had that Venmo request ready.
Nice, dude. So listen, I guess I only have one other question for you, Drew, in terms of
we turned that one question into half an hour.
Yeah,
no, that's good. That's good stuff, dude. That's a great
I
so
know it's
I
pretty
guess a little lighter question, right? Because obviously you are, it's evident that you're like a much more heavy DC reader. Who are some I guess like Marvel characters that stick out for you above the rest?
when it comes to, I mean, I'm not much of a cosmic guy at all.
Mm.
I love
Even on like the DC side, not so
really
much?
even on the DC side.
Yeah.
I mean, like I'll read. I like the Green Lanterns quite a bit, but like, I've never been big on that for some reason. When in comics, like in movies, like I love sci-fi in movies. I love sci-fi in like other media, but for some reason in comics, I just get really into street level stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
And so like the top characters at Marvel for me, I mean, I love Daredevil. Daredevil also just has the really great history of like nobody's ever really written a bad Daredevil run,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy. It's kind of impressive. I
even
mean,
the
yeah.
latest one, I picked up issue number 1, and I was like, "Okay, it wasn't that good." And then I picked up issue number 2, and I was like, "Okay,
Right?
back in."
Like, I don't know. Like if you just go through the history, that certainly doesn't hurt that there's like just great writers working on developing that character.
Yeah,
I love Moon Knight a
I
lot.
like Moon Knight, but I haven't read much Moon Knight. I've only really read the Jed McKay stuff. So
I'm making my way through that.
Yeah,
I picked up every issue of that, but I stopped reading at issue 2 for some reason. And like while I've been in the comic shop, I've been reading through the McKay stuff, and I'm like into the second arc now, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I should have kept up with this. It's great.
It's pretty
There's
badass.
there's
dude.
a specific issue later on. I'm not even gonna tell you anything, but you're gonna think of me. You're just gonna be like, "Oh, that was great." It's I don't know
Yeah.
if Cody knows even what I'm talking, but it's like the coolest thing I've seen Moon Knight do ever. And
I'm trying to think. I can't even think of what you might be talking about, but that's really funny,
it's so
dude.
good.
Drew's gonna be like, "Dang, Christian!"
something-
like when he reads
something
this.
He's already done some cool stuff.
Something
Yeah.
so cool is gonna happen. They're gonna be like, "Oh, that was pretty badass."
Yeah, like I'm really into Moon Knight. I like the more horror aspect to him.
yeah.
I like Captain America a lot, just because I think Captain America, you get to explore a lot of things that I find really interesting, like, American politics and what America means to the rest of the world. You get to do that with Captain America. What does America mean to its own people? I always get really excited about, like a new Captain America book, just because, you get somebody else offering their idea of what
Yeah.
Captain America means. I like, after the Matt Fraction, David Aja, Hawkeye, I do have a soft spot for Hawkeye. I like, there's a lot. There's more. I like Punisher a lot. I think it's really fun to explore the concept of vengeance through his eyes and just like, really break down what makes him interesting as a character.
The Jason Aaron Punisher run, I got to give flowers to that. I haven't read Punisher very much at all, and coming into it, I thought he was very misunderstood. I misunderstood that maybe thinking that he's like too surface level, but that Jason Aaron run's pretty good.
It's great. Yeah. I will tell you this: my favorite Punisher run, and it is a little recency bias, but my favorite Punisher run is Greg Rucka and Marco Cicchetto doing Punisher for like 12 issues. It's so good.
With Kaketo on the art, bro. Yeah, absolutely.
It's great. It crosses over with Spider-Man and Daredevil at the time, but for the most part, it's like its own story. The first issue, Frank doesn't say a word. He just shows up, kills who he thinks he needs to kill, and then gets out. And it's just like so unbelievably perfect. Your kind of main characters in that first issue is like basically Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman from the movie Seven, like trying to track down the Punisher.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
It's so good. And it really fell to the wayside despite being really praised when it came out.
I think for some reason Punisher as a character is so interesting to me because I went from like that one Punisher movie that I forget anyone who's in it. But it was like, what, 2004, if anything?
What, Thomas Jane and John Travolta?
Yeah. Like, that's like my first introduction to the Punisher. And then I jumped to like my brother watching Superhero Squad, and I was like, that guy's in
there? The Punisher on there is great.
Yeah, and then I jump onto like comics, and I'm like, okay, I'm jumping back and forth. Didn't he like shoot Archie or something?
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, and there's other, like, I really like Thor, despite not being super into the cosmic stuff, but that's also like, that's because Jason Aaron wrote Thor. Yeah. And I picked that up as a Jason Aaron book, and then that made me appreciate the character. Same thing's happening right now. Philip Kennedy Johnson writing Hulk is making me really like Hulk.
I love that run.
Drew, you just gave me a perfect layup, buddy. Our next topic, guys. It's enough for Drew, all right? We're going to be talking about comic book series that are ongoing right now that we like, all right? That's the next topic. So Drew gave a shout out to The Hulk by Philip Kennedy Johnson. If I'm not mistaken, isn't this this is like his first like Marvel series, right? He was doing most of his stuff he's doing at DC for the longest time, right? So I haven't been reading this Hulk run.
It's
I guess
you would love it. It's like so dark.
I know Christian's been telling me.
It's great. It feels like it's doing for Hulk what he did for Superman.
Okay.
And it's just, oh man, it's great.
Yeah, I'm
It's
really liking
if
Phil
you
Kenny
like the
Johnson,
Immortal
man. It's
Hulk,
really great
I
stuff.
feel like Immortal Hulk is such a good transition into this Hulk run because it
Do
keeps
you think
that
that
darkness a little
d-
bit.
sh- do I have to read Immortal first? Do you guys think, or do you think it'd be cool to start the?
Having not read Immortal Hulk, I think
Gotcha.
you'll be
Oh
fine.
yeah, you can
Okay,
jump
cool.
into it. I mean,
Hell
it's
yeah.
classic Hulk, you know, like running away from society, and then something happens that brings him into society, as it always happens. And I'm always gonna be there for it because it's always great. But I feel
I
like for Hulk being a character I was never interested in, this Philly Kennedy, it's such a good run. Is it the body horror when he transforms?
right. So Christian, right? Because I know that Donnie Cates was on the Hulk title. I
Uh,
wasn't feeling it so much, so it kind of soured me on Hulk a little bit. That definitely wasn't the best Hulk
I
series to
love Donny
start reading
Cates,
Hulk.
and
So
I love Donny Cates. I would never recommend anyone read Hulk by Donny Cates.
yeah, it's some fun parts, but definitely not what I'm
It's
looking for, I
Donny
guess.
Cates has that thing where he like his goal in every book is to make that character the most powerful he can be.
Right.
So that's cool. If you just want to see like Hulk destroying things,
Like power
read it.
scaling or
Yeah,
whatever, right?
but that's about it.
Um
As far as like depth of the character, you're not gonna get that deep.
but I guess, maybe we'll stay in let's stay in like the Marvel realm, dude, because, as we all know, Ultimate Universe started up earlier this year, spearheaded by Jonathan Hickman, you got Peach Momoko, Brian Hill. What have you guys thought about let's start with Ultimate Spider-Man. What are you guys' thoughts on Ultimate Spider-Man so far, Drew?
That is the only one that I've read.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I picked it up partially because I never read Spider-Man ever.
I was gonna mention you didn't mention Spider-Man when you were talking about your favorite Marvel superhero.
It's just like it's such a blind spot for me, and I don't know
Mm.
why. I guess it's just because like you only have so much information that you can take in at one point. So like some of it has to fall to the wayside, and yeah, that's what happened with Spider-Man for me. I've read like a few things here and there, but I was like, I decided to pick it up just because it was a new Hickman book,
Mhm.
Mm.
and so that was the main driving force for me, main motivation for reading it. And you know what, I really like it so far. I mean,
It's
it's
good,
only like
dude.
2 issues in,
Yeah,
right?
I've
I
only
don't
Two
read
think
issues
number
in, yeah.
one, but I loved it. I thought
I'm really enjoying it.
just
Yeah.
with comic books like that, when it's like, oh, we changed it up, guys, get ready. It can feel very gimmicky
Mm.
a lot of times, which is what happened to me when I read the original Ultimate Spider-Man. The first 2 issues, I was like, okay, this is just like gimmicky, like Spider-Man in the 2000s. But like, then it got really good. So I'm not gonna talk shit about Ultimate Spider-Man. But
I was gonna say, dude, you're
with
gonna get a lot of hate comments.
no,
Dude.
I love that book. I have all the omnis back there. I'm not gonna show them though. With the newest Ultimate Spider-Man, it's just immediately every change was so interesting,
Mm.
and it made me want to say like I'm not gonna drop this book until I know all the answers, as opposed to
Right.
like the Seb Wells Spider-Man where I dropped it before the questions were even asked.
Well, so I was gonna say, Drew. So like, if you compare, like, you mentioned like Daredevil, right? Has had just so many great runs over his long history. There might not be a missed beat in his like long history or whatever. Spider-Man, on the other hand, I don't blame you for not reading, every Spider-Man story ever. There's a lot of it, and from what it sounds like, it's it's kind of all it's like mid, mostly just mid. I hate to say it. So he doesn't have that that he's not Daredevil. He thinks he's Daredevil. He's not. So I guess it's probably not a bad thing that you haven't read too much Spider-Man. But dude, this Ultimate Spider-Man run, I'm so here for it. Yeah. So dude, I don't know if you guys heard, right? Apparently, Marco Cocchetto is leaving Ultimate Spider-Man. He's like not going to be there for the next 4 issues. I think he's coming back at some point. But man, what a blow, dude! You start off this awesome run.
The
You're
art
two
is
issues
really
in,
nice.
dude.
The art is really nice.
The art is so clean, bro. It's so
It
clean.
kind of
I
sucks.
love Cocchetto's art.
I haven't read I read Black Panther #1 and we did talk about it already. But like I'm so excited for Ultimate X-Men. I'm gonna go pick it up as soon as I can.
So that's the other big one. I would recommend you guys listen. I'm not like the biggest X-Men fan,
Or
but
Marvel
I
fan in
think
general, I feel like.
or Marvel fan in general, dude. Christian's right, but I would recommend Drew and Christian. You guys check out Ultimate X-Men because it's so far at least it's like only a hint to X-Men. Really, it's just like this armor character, and it reads more like a Pixar movie in the best way possible.
Oh, that's
I
In
interesting.
don't think
terms,
there's a bad way to be a Pixar movie, dude.
dude, that's what I'm saying. It's got like so much heart already, and like the protagonist is like this armor character, which I don't know too much about in like the regular Marvel universe, but all the X Men heads love armor. They say that she's like up there with like Cyclops and stuff, bro, in terms of how they feel about this armor character. So I'm loving it. I definitely recommend Ultimate X Men. In terms of other Marvel series, the only one that I'm currently reading, so I would love to hear from you guys if you're reading more. I'm reading that Ryan North Fantastic Four series. Um, dude, that series, like,
Yeah.
it's I don't know. Are you guys reading it? I'd love to hear your
I
thoughts
I,
about
I
that.
haven't read like the past like 5 issues, but it's my first Fantastic Four run, and it's
Yep.
phenomenal. It's honestly so
Yeah.
great.
I that's I'm almost in the same boat. Like I'm not up to date on it. I'm further behind than 5 issues, but yeah, it's also like my first Fantastic Four, and I dig it. Like
It's
Yeah,
so
it's
fun,
really cool.
and
it's just like fun,
I
bro. Like
I,
you don't frown when you read that book. You know what I'm saying?
I
Like,
got a book for Cody actually, and
dude, lay it
Drew.
on me.
I don't know if Drew's reading it. I know Cody for sure isn't reading it.
I think I know what you're gonna say, dude. Lay
Okay,
it on
say
me,
it then.
bro. Are you gonna recommend Guardians?
No, I wasn't gonna recommend Guardians. I've
Oh,
already
okay.
done that. I'm not gonna pester you about it. Avengers Twilight
Great.
Dude,
I really love Avengers Twilight.
Avengers
good
Twilight
pull,
Cody
Christian.
is just for you.
Dude, so Christian, I am reading that one, and I only got it because Chip Zdarsky. So
100%.
my Julie down at my shop, she knows I'm a Chip head, so she stuck that in my box for me. But dude, what a cool concept,
Yeah.
right? Like just getting the band back together. Like Captain America's old as shit, dude, but
It
let's
kind of
kick some
I
ass, dude.
it has the Kingdom
I
Come
am
kind of
I
aspect.
am absolutely loving is Daniel Acuna's art.
It's clean, dude.
It's so good.
Yeah,
It's like it's stylized, which I really like. I prefer somebody who has like their own
Yeah,
style.
100%.
But it like fits into this really cool, almost like Blade Runner version of
yep.
the DC or the Marvel universe. Um, yeah, I mean it's great. I'm such a fan of it.
Yeah, I think I'm one behind, but just such a cool.
I only read issue
I don't
number
know.
1, and like from
Gotcha.
reading number
Dude, it's
1,
so
I was
good.
like, oh my! It ends with like the coolest cliffhanger of all time, and I was like, oh no, it's like my new
Yeah,
addiction.
dude.
That's one of those stories where I'm like, whenever it gets released in a collected edition, I'm gonna have to buy it in the best
Yeah.
format, hardcover, deluxe, slipcover, whatever. I mean, I need to buy it.
Dude, everybody's loving it too, which is very cool to see. Because I feel like the over at Marvel, I feel like a lot of the like comic talk people that I watch, like everybody's new comic book days and stuff. It seems like the Marvel minis don't get a lot of love, but everybody's all
No,
over Avengers Twilight, man. They're loving it. So
Cody, you and me are, and we've talked about it before. I'm more of a mini guy. You know,
right,
I like those short stories. I feel like they're more
right.
creative a lot of times because they know what they have. They know they have this
You're like
limited amount of
confined,
time,
right?
and they just, I don't know. I love them.
I mean, going back to Tom King, right? You want to talk about the king of minis or the king of maxis, dude? It's got to be Tom King, man. He writes 12 issues of a comic like no one else, man. It's so
Yeah,
good.
I mean you can like go through Human Target, right? Uh, uh, Danger Street, uh, the Omega
Gotham Year
Men,
One.
Gotham Year One.
The only thing I didn't really enjoy was Batman Killing Time. That's like the only 6 issue thing from Tom King that I haven't really enjoyed as much.
Yeah,
Um, but so like okay, so if we're talking about
I feel
that's it for Marvel, bro. I
Yeah.
got no more Marvels.
I
Anyone
was
else
gonna
reading
say
Marvel?
just before we move on from Tom King,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like a lot of
go for it.
people don't talk about Strange Adventures as much as I love it. Because
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
just
agree.
picked up the deluxe.
they go to Mr.
so-
Miracle, which I understand,
right?
but Strange Adventures like really destroyed.
Can I tell you my Tom King story?
Yeah.
Absolutely, dude.
This is my Tom King story. Years ago, pre New 52, or no, this had to be during New 52. Vertigo was still around, and Vertigo was. Well, if anybody listening doesn't know, Vertigo was an imprint at DC. They did a lot of like creator-owned stuff. It was kind of their more mature readers line. Just basically anything that didn't fit into the regular DC universe, they would kind of make it a Vertigo title.
I see it's sort of like Black Label back in the day.
Yeah, it is very similar to Black Label, but honestly, I would compare it more to what Image is doing now.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
Where like there was a time when you could go in and like if you didn't know anything about a book, but it was like a new number one and it was from Vertigo, it was a pretty safe bet that you could just pick it up and you would love it.
Yeah.
And so like Vertigo towards the end of their life, they did these anthologies that were based on like every story in it was about a specific subject. And there was this one about all the stories were about time travel. And I remember reading that and just there was one story in particular really stood out to me. I think it was like 6 to 8 pages, and it's about a time traveler who's going back in time, and he goes back in time and he kills Hitler as a kid, right?
Yeah.
It poses that
The
question,
classic,
right?
yeah.
So, unfortunately, that's kind of the twist of the story, and I spoiled it. But there's really not a way to talk about it without.
I wasn't gonna read it probably. It's okay.
Oh man. So anyway, I read that story and it stuck with me, and I was just like, whoever wrote this is really really good. But I didn't think to look at who actually wrote it. So one year at C2E2, I'm walking through Artist Alley, and I see a stack of those books, and I asked the person, I'm just like, oh, like, did you do a story in this? He's like, yeah, I wrote the one about the guy who kills Hitler. And I just started being like, that's my favorite story in it. It's so good. And it's Tom King. And so, like, I'm just, like, geeking out with him. And I kind of just ask, like, are you doing more stuff? Like, where else can I read your stuff? And he's just kind of like, I am, but I can't tell you about it yet. Instead, I can tell you about this book. And he pulls out a book that is not a comic book, right? It's like a regular, like, prose novel that he wrote. And it's called A Once Crowded Sky. And he hands it to me, and he's, I'm flipping through it, and like A Once Crowded Sky is about a group of superheroes who lose their powers. And when they have powers, it's a graphic novel, but when they lose them, it becomes a regular book.
Oh my God, bro.
And so then I was just like, you have an understanding of the medium that a lot of people just don't take the chance to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to read everything you ever write. And I have kept that up. Like,
you made a promise to a man that day.
And
that's just cool. Like, that sounds like a gimmick, but dude, that's sick, bro. That's sick.
It is a gimmick.
Gimmicks are not bad, dude. I'll stick with a gimmick every now and then.
Gimmicks get a bad rap, dude. That's a sick gimmick. I love that gimmick.
And so, like, every time I'm reading a Tom King book, it's just like me thinking, what is this guy doing with these characters or with this book that is like just him, like unique to him. Because I think that he has just a really, for somebody who, like, there's a lot of Alan Moore in Tom King's writing.
Yeah.
To the point where I would often say that, like, he's almost imitating at sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that as a bad thing at all.
Yeah.
I think that Tom King, like, has his own unique voice, despite often seeming like he's just trying to live up to the same standard as a previous creator.
Mm.
And I have liked everything that he's done. I know a lot of people take issue with his Batman ongoing. I love it. Like from beginning to end, I think that it's great. I think that it pulls from not just like his writing in general pulls not just from Alan Moore and Frank Miller and like these other creators who, I
Yeah.
mentioned at the beginning of this, but it's also like there's a lot of Kurt Vonnegut in his writing. Uh,
Right.
there's a lot of Dick of like Hemingway in his writing. Just this postmodern American literature shows up in his stuff. And even if I don't like everything that he's done, or don't like it as much as other stuff,
He's always right. Like he's always doing it. You know what I mean?
there's
Like
like his books. His books all feel different from each other.
right. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I've never looked at Tom King's like body of work like that. I
The-
mean,
Like,
that's yeah.
like he gives his characters unique voices. I've heard some people say, "Oh, they all talk the same," and I was just like, I don't see that. I think that he gives all of his characters unique voices. Vision doesn't
Yeah.
read the same as
No,
Wonder Woman, and
100%.
Wonder Woman doesn't read the same as Supergirl, and Supergirl doesn't read the same as Superman up in the sky. Like
Well, listen, dude. Nice little segue.
into Helen Windhorst.
If we're getting into indie series, bro, no. Okay. I'm so serious right now. This is probably the best single issue of a comic, like Drew was talking about earlier for his favorite, like the Daredevil, Daredevil 199, 191. Dude, this blew me away in ways I can't even describe, dude. So
Yeah,
Tom
it's
King just knocked it out of the park. It's the same creative team as Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. I don't know how to say the artist's name, Bill
Bill,
Evely?
I think it's Bilquis.
Bilquis Evely? Yeah, so man,
Tom,
what a follow-up to Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. It's so good, dude.
Yeah, it's
Christian, you gotta pick it up, man.
I
You
will
gotta
for
pick it
sure.
up.
Tom King has that thing that James Tinian has that I hate them both for.
Mm,
That's like there's no way a human being can make so many things and be consistently so good. I know it's jealousy on my part. I know it I'm just being annoying, but like I like writing and like it's so like annoying to see someone just be have no misses.
Yeah, I get that.
dude, like this is not a miss, bro. This is so good.
He-
Love
he's
the protagonist. He writes like women characters really well, which is kind of interesting for I guess like a male writer. But Supergirl Woman Tomorrow and then Helen Cole here. Yeah, just some really great stuff from Tom King, dude.
he's got another book out right now that a lot of people are overlooking just because of who
Animal
publishes it.
Pound.
Animal Pound, yeah,
I love it.
yeah, because it comes through Boom.
I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean
that's a good pull as well, dude.
it's such a good book.
It's
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking indie books that are out right now, or like
lay it on
non
me.
big two, you mentioned James Tynan.
Yep.
yeah.
I love The Deviant.
The
So
Deviant,
good,
I,
dude.
the Deviant is one of those books where I finished reading it, and I think I texted Cody, "Hey, I'm gonna film a video about this right now."
Like you
it-
just got to right away,
Yeah,
right?
it's-
So the thing
I love what's going on in The Deviant.
what's so interesting to me, and it's something that I don't see a lot of writers maybe do as well as Tinian, is just dialogue writing, man. And it's so weird to say, when you're talking about comic books, but just two people, right? Just two people, and
Sitting.
there's so many word balloons on the screen, but like he doesn't miss a beat. Like it's very purposeful with everything that he's doing and everything that there's being said. I think Tinian just does great stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
great dialogue stuff, especially.
With dialogue in general, like dialogue is hard in comics
Mhm.
because ideally you don't need it at all.
Yeah, no, it's
Like in a visual medium, you really don't need to read anything if you can position the art well enough, right? So like there's always this balance between like how do you, because there's two the two things that you need dialogue to do, right? This is what, you know, every writing class will teach you. Dialogue pushes the plot forward and or reveals character, right? And so how do you minimalistically utilize dialogue in an efficient way without covering up all the art, but also let the reader know what's going on, move the story forward, and reveal who the characters are. It's a balancing act, and like for people who, you know, don't like a lot of dialogue in their stories, they might see a lot of dialogue as just inherently not good.
Right.
But I think it's not about how much you use; it's about how you use what you've got. You know.
I think for me, like you look at like Department of Truth. Department of Truth is just dialogue.
Yeah.
There's no action in this book. It has like some of the most dialogue I've ever read, but also like the art is beautiful and they never feel like they're clashing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm always engaged in everything they're saying. And it's not an easy book to read, but like it's one of those books that if I pick up a Department of Truth book, I will probably finish it in one sitting, like the trades, because it's so easy to follow, and I feel like I'm like if two characters are walking, talking about something, I feel like I'm right behind them. I'm
Yeah.
like the third friend on the sidewalk that couldn't stand next to them.
Dude, Christian, I know exactly what you're saying, and I'm having a hard time like trying to put it into words. But I think it kind of goes off of kind of what Drew was saying, where he's saying, you know, dialogue. One of the purposes is to like to reveal the character. Just Tinian does it in such a way that the characters just feel more real than
Yeah.
that character would be written by another person. Like I don't know, something Tinian does just makes it feel more real, and it's really impressive.
He utilizes dialogue in a way that like just feels like it feels natural. It feels like what a real person would actually talk like this.
Right, and they all feel like unique, like they have a unique voice, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll read something and it's like this is all from like, you know, maybe the writer's voice almost, right? Like they're getting the exposition to you, right? But the people saying those things, they don't feel, you know, like unique or whatever.
There is a classic writer. I'm not going to use any names here because it's possible that could put me in a funny position later on. Wink, wink. But I'm not going to use any names. But there is a classic writer who still puts stuff out, and people really like their work. And I cannot get into it at all. I give everything they do a chance. Because I found stuff that I do like, but everything they do, I find the flaw. To me, it's a flaw anyway, of just like you're not hiding your exposition very well.
Right, that's a skill, right? That's a skill, yeah.
And
absolutely.
It's just like a book came out recently that I was just like, I really want to like this, but the dialogue in here is just information dump, cleverly, like not as cleverly disguised as a conversation as the writer probably thinks.
I've had such. I'm not. I respect anyone writing a comic book. I want to put this out there. But,
Same.
But I've had this problem where like I'm reading like a very indie book, and like not even like main like image or anything, just like someone wrote it, and you know like they're promoting it on like TikTok or like any website, and I'll be reading it, and like it's something that I even in film school I did this when I wrote like scripts from time to time. It was like, hey John, so nice to see you, man. I remember when we met back in 1986, and dude, stop.
Yeah, those characters would know that. So
right.
you gotta find a way to like. You have to find a way to hide it if it's important.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if we're talking
a way that I would do that. I mean, I'm not saying that like I'm the best, you know, do that.
No, you
It just kind of be like, you know, I would have two characters be like, oh, you remember when we met, you know, and they'd be like kind of trading memories back and forth. And you would have somebody say like what was that song that was playing on the radio? Oh, it was, the whatever, a song that was popular in that year or
Yeah.
something like that.
Right, like context it or whatever instead
That's
of
the way that I would do something
explicitly
like that.
lay out. Yeah.
Which may take a little longer to get there,
Mm-hmm.
which means that you're probably not using it as efficiently, which means you might have to cut it out entirely,
Yeah.
and then you're back where you are. So,
But like even then,
Yeah.
like just you can tell how long people have been friends for by the conversation they're having now.
I agree.
Right.
You don't need to tell me they met in '85. If I just see how close they are right now, I can probably tell they've been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
Or I can tell they've hated each other for a long time.
I agree
like,
with you.
The history, you don't necessarily have to tell the history for me to understand their connection.
The next series I want to talk about, dude, we got The One Hand. Rom V, The One Hand. You reading this thing, dude? Who's reading this?
I'm not.
And the
but that
Six
sounds
Fingers
good.
too, Drew? You reading the Six Fingers, buddy?
Of course, I'm reading the Six Fingers.
Dude,
Can't read
my
the One
man.
Hand without the Six Fingers.
Okay, so dude, for those that don't
We
know,
all know
right?
one
We're in the
hand has
future.
6
It's in
fingers.
like 20XX or whatever. It doesn't really matter. We're a little bit in the future. There's this detective who's pretty good at his job. He's put away the serial killer not once, but he's put him away twice because there keeps on a copycat serial killer that's doing it in the same way. And then, guys, after he put away the second one decades ago, there's a third copycat serial killer, dude. So everything gets thrown out the window for this guy. Everybody's like, dude, what kind of detective are you? You're like the worst. You haven't caught this guy. It's been decades. It's so good, dude. But the interesting part about The One Hand is the sister series called The Six Fingers.
Yep.
So this series, we get it from the detective's point of view, and The Six Fingers, we get it from the serial killer's point of view. So it's got this like super interesting
We're back to gimmicks,
concept
dude.
going on.
We're back to gimmicks.
I'm liking this gimmick though, dude. This is a
love
gimmick.
it.
It's
Yeah.
2 thumbs up.
First of all, it's Ram V writing one book, and Dan Waters, who
What a guy.
I have become such a fan of Dan Waters over the last year. I always say, kind of tie it back into what we were saying, Dan Waters writes like classic Vertigo, and like his writing just has that feel to it.
And I gotta read Vertigo. I got a couple books right here.
Dude, Dan Waters is killing it, man. Very, very. I know what you mean, Drew. Like, the word I would associate to Dan Waters is like probably like creepy. I'd probably put creepy next to his name. It's very.
Yeah, it feels like it's 1996, and like all these British writers have basically like taken over the American comic scene, and they're bringing in all this like gothic like years of growing up in depressing ass England to American storytelling, and it's so good.
Inject it in my veins, dude.
It reminds me too of, have either of you ever read Gotham Central?
Dude, Gotham, that's on my list for next month, dude, because I've heard you talk about it at length, dude. I'm so looking forward to it.
One of the cool things about Gotham Central is that it's written by Ed Brubaker and Greg Rucka, who are like two of the best names in crime comics. In order to figure out how to split up the writing, they just decided to do it in shifts. So
smart,
like
dude.
One of them, I don't remember who has what, but one of them writes the day shift of the Gotham Central or the Gotham City Police Department, and the other one writes the night shift. So they have like their own characters that they would work with, and then like interact with each other.
It's so smart.
It's such a good idea, and that's kind of what this reminds me of, except it's like bigger because it's it's not contained to one series.
That's really cool. I'm gonna pull it because that sounds.
Yes, I mean, Christian, we say it all the time, dude. Crime. It's like I'm just such in love with crime as a genre, dude.
This last issue of The One Hand, I thought it was so good. It's definitely like asking more questions than it's answering. It's still early in the series, but like it's it's asking questions that like you want it to
Yeah.
ask, you know.
But
That's
I
exciting.
guess
It's-
the last thing I'll say about the one, because I could gush about this stuff for forever. This is like one of my favorite series coming out right now, but it's just such a unique like week to week reading experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, Drew? Like it comes out and then you get the next series comes out and you get the flip side of it, and then you wait a couple more weeks and you get, it's just like the experience month to month reading it is something that I haven't had in a very long time. Like
Yeah, no, it's very cool.
right, just seeing like how both series play off each other. It's just it's very
Especially
unique, dude. Very cool.
The Six Fingers came out most recently, and then this new issue of the One Hand, and you actually get to see like events that happened in one book happen in the other from a
Yes.
different perspective, you know. And
Right. It's like the
Uh,
next day in the Six Fingers is, you know, it's like his night or whatever. But so the way they're going to collect it, I'm wondering if they're going to collect it that way, where they'll switch back and forth in like a trade or something, because
that would
that's
that
the way
would
it's
be
got to
really
be read,
cool.
right? Like
That would be really cool if they did that.
yeah.
I'll tell you what this most recent issue did that is just something that I'm such a sucker for. So like there is something in there's like a recurring thing in the book that is a series of shapes.
Mm.
Um,
For
don't really know what they mean yet, but it's like a series of shapes that he keeps finding at the crime scenes.
Yep.
And at one point in this issue, I'm flipping through it because I want to see where it is. But at one point in this issue, the actual like panel layout
Yep.
is those shapes.
It's sick, dude.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about, Drew. It was the character is looking at the wall and he sees like paintings, and the way that they're arranged, like 2 panels later, he abstracts it, and those are the symbols on the wall. So yeah, like exactly like you're describing. Very cool stuff,
So
dude.
yeah, you get to use the layout of the page
Yeah.
as like its own version of the storytelling. It's just
Yeah.
I
Very
was-
cool stuff, dude.
I'm excited to read it, guys.
Definitely
This,
recommend
I
dude.
feel like this episode is like you guys pitching me things.
I think Christian has to buy them.
You know what? Can I throw one more in there?
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. I got one
Okay,
more,
it's
but
your
you go
show.
for it.
This is it's my show. Anyway, so these are the top 10 Weird Al Yankovic songs.
Let's go for it.
There's a book that it's a smaller publisher, Sumerian Comics,
Okay.
is putting out, and it's like a semi sequel to Basic Instinct.
Yes, but it doesn't
I heard
follow the
about
movie.
this.
I saw it at the store.
And so yeah, it doesn't follow the movie. It deals with similar themes, and also like Sharon Stone's character
Yeah.
from the movie is in the book at one
Yeah, I
point.
saw that.
And I'm gonna be honest, I picked it up because a friend of mine wrote it, and sometimes when you read stuff from friends, it's like you gotta say something nice about it, you know, like right. And I kind of went into it thinking like, okay, like I don't know if I'm gonna like this, but you gotta say something nice. And by the end of issue 2, I was just like, no, I'm totally on board for this.
They're
Like,
doing.
my friend's killing it, dude. Nice.
Sumerian Comics is doing American Psycho as well.
Yeah, and it's the
Yeah.
same concept,
Yeah,
right?
same concept.
It's like
It might have been. It might be Sumerian that's doing the sequel comic to the Thing or whatever.
Man,
like I know there's
Sumerian's
a
doing
new
all
series
these.
called The Mist or whatever, but
yeah,
for a
like
sequel.
my friend Sam Freeman wrote it. The artist is I cannot remember her name off the top of my head. She is not an artist whose work I was familiar with,
Yeah.
but after like reading this, it's like I gotta get familiar.
yeah,
That's good.
Which sucks that I can't remember her
No,
name
no,
off the top
that's
of my head. It's, I mean, like if you like weird stuff, like especially like the works of David Lynch,
Mm-hmm.
Twin Peaks, stuff like that. Like I feel like it's like right at home with that.
That's cool. What's the series called? Sumerian.
It's just called
Yeah,
Basic
it's called
Instinct.
Basic Instinct.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. No, that's cool, dude.
And
Congrats to your buddy, man.
it's
Killing it over Sumerian.
it's a 4-issue miniseries. It's 4-issue miniseries. 3 of them are out. 4th one's on its way. So it's pretty much about to finish.
It's really exciting. Right?
With it being a smaller publisher, I don't know if they'll do a trade of it. So you might
Right.
have to read it in these singles. But I really think that it's worth it.
That's really exciting, dude. I want to read it because I read the first issue of the American Psycho one and I really liked it. So I'm excited to see like if they're doing more movies like that. Like, listen, I love Fight Club, love Chuck Palahniuk. Those comics suck.
I actually really liked him. I liked him a lot.
How do I put it? I like them from a creative aspect. I feel like the art is really good. The writing's good too. I just feel like where he takes the story compared to the original book, not even the movie, compared to the original book, was such a departure that I was like shocked.
But I feel like that the book eventually goes in that direction.
I have him signed right here, so like trust me,
You got him signed.
Oh yeah,
nice.
I got him signed.
That's cool, bro.
There we go. We made him stand up.
He's probably getting
he's probably getting the same signed copy.
This is my leather-bound edition of Fight Club.
That's so nice.
Signed directly to me. From
Dude.
Chuck Palahniuk.
I love
it. Also comes with. Hold on, it's stuck here. This is a TSA notice of baggage inspection that he signed because they had to scrutinize the bag full of severed arms that he was sending to comic shops around the country.
Dude,
I have a Chuck Palahniuk like signed severed arm in my classroom.
I love Chuck Palahniuk. One of my favorite things is that like this is the last thing I'll say before Cody ends the show with his last book. My favorite movie is Fight Club, and the book is probably up there too. And I always say that I have a big problem with that being my favorite movie because it's like that film bro type of movie. And I would like to say like, hey, this is a member of the LGBTQ community writing a book about toxic masculinity, but even though he swears that he's not, but
he's wrong.
But the moment I sit down and I say, guys, you don't understand it, I am that film bro.
Right. Then you like mask off and it's like I am the film bro.
I get it. I understand. I Fight Club is the book I've read more times than any other book besides Watchmen. And I mean, I've seen the movie. Fight Club is my comfort movie.
Same here. I get
and I recognize what that sounds like.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you right here. I have probably watched my senior thesis in high school was about Fight Club.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Hey, film bros right here.
I mean I'm a sucker for David Fincher. So
yes. Cody.
Nice, bro. So like, listen, guys, I'll close it out. Last book I want to recommend. I don't know if anybody else has read it. Napalm Lullaby, New Heat from Rick Remender.
I have not yet. It's sitting right in front of me here, though. Like in my to read.
I don't have it here.
I won't spoil too much because Drew hasn't read it yet. But the concept is very interesting. I don't know, Drew. Did you read like the solicit? Or are you going in blind?
I'm going in blind. I
won't tell you. I don't want to spoil it.
Hey, Cody recommends this book. That's all we need to know.
Yeah, so I won't say, I'll just say that it's like this super powered baby or whatever, and then it's 50 years in the future, and there's kind of this been religion that's been built around this like super powered being, and we got some punk action going on. Let's take down the religion or whatever.
Cody once again has lived up to his name. As I call him, Cody the Wallet Destroyer collects.
The Wallet Destroyer. It's good though, guys. I definitely recommend it. New Heat from Rick Remender. I don't know, Drew. Are you familiar with? I guess Rick Remender has worked with Bengal the artist here, but I'm not familiar with. I guess they did like a longer running series, but I'm not familiar with it. But I thought the art was super strong too.
I not off the top of my head.
Yeah, dude, just super cool concept, man. Rick Remender's killing it as well. I mean, we're talking about current artists that are just putting out great stuff. Rick Remender has it missing a little bit, right? So,
dude,
I love Rick Remender.
I'm gonna edit this so I don't have to write anything down. I will try to buy everything you guys recommended.
This one's good too. I recommend this one, man. It's good.
I don't
Napalm Lullaby.
I trust you guys with what you recommend because I feel like we all have different tastes, but I know your taste is good. So I'll leave it at that.
It's these for me, dude. These are it now. This is like just heat.
I will say that I am trying to just put more indie books on my list, 100%. Like just to read.
I got to do more like just recommendation videos because that's like something I hear all the time is just people wanting to
cut it down in Marvel and DC to make room for those indie books. Because
I'm having so much fun with indies right now,
this is not a joke. I would go to the store, cut down my pull list by like half, and then Cody the next day would be like, "Hey, did you read this?
Gotta add these.
And like, it's a problem with like my list is now Cody's list. I feel.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, man. I'm reading a lot of good stuff, guys. A lot of great indies.
100%.
But listen, I think that was a great episode.
I liked it.
Great episode of Color Break. Color Break comic book podcast. Your third favorite, from what I hear, guys. Yeah. Thanks for making us your third favorite. I don't know, dude. We got any closing words? Drew, I'll throw it to you, man. You got anything you want to shout out? Any cool projects upcoming? You doing anything cool in the next month or so in the city of Chicago? I don't know.
I will say, number one, about a year ago, Justice League Cosmic Chaos came out for all video game platforms. I co-wrote the script for it. So it's a lot of fun. Go play it. And I think in Chicago next month, I don't know, these couple of real losers who I don't know, they asked me if I would come be on some panel with them.
I would use a harsher word than
losers. Yeah, you got to use a harsher word.
I don't know anything about them, so
right.
And so they asked me if I would, and I said no, but then they were just like, "We're gonna pay you a bunch of money," and I was like, "Done."
I didn't tell Christian that part. You got to pay him like $2,000. I told him you'd cover it and
per hour.
Okay, I used to have some Fight Club signed books.
To trade or something. Nice.
But
yeah, dude, should be fun. We got a convention coming up. Drew's gonna be on our panel, man.
There was a time when I did not miss a year of C2E2, and I went there. I went to C2E2 10 years in a row, and I have not been there in a while now.
It's homecoming for Drew.
Yeah, it'll. I got a lot of friends in Chicago that I've met through.
You're gonna have some friends in Chicago.
I have some friends in Chicago.
Also, Drew, I'm hoping you can show us some sights a little bit, dude. Like, get us some good meat to eat. Original beef, dude.
Mr. Beef, yeah.
Let's hit it up, dude.
I'm telling you, Rico Benes, South Chicago.
We will be there, and I'm excited.
Whatever you say, man. I'll
put up a graphic right now. It's probably just gonna be Comic Sans.
But yeah, so look forward to it, man.
Other than that, I have something that I'm working on, but I can't tell you about it yet.
That's nice.
Really excited about it, though. That's all I'll say.
That's nice.
Once it's out in the wild, dude, we'll have Drew back on. I would love to hear his experience with this thing that he's alluding to. That's all I'll say about it. But yeah, thank you, Drew, for coming on, man. Had a blast chatting with you, as always. I know you're always down for it. Christian.
I got nothing going on.
Christian, final words, buddy.
Sorry for the inconsistency with the episodes. Me and Cody have had a lot going on. But
I know,
this is the funnest thing we do outside of our personal lives.
Out of like anything else, it's definitely not, it's definitely more fun than my job, I'll tell you that. But
this could be our job.
Thank you guys
I don't
for
think we
joining
would complain.
Sponsors, man. Listen, hit me up. Thank you guys for watching.
Colgate, come by.
See you guys in the next one.